Sobrang di ko pa mapaniwala. Maraming salamat sa suporta at sana patuloy yung suporta niyo sa akin.
Okay, yeah. Yes, yes, again. Okay, yeah.
My Daughter is Broken, the untold story of Eala'S tears and triumph. They call her the princess of Philippine tennis, a prodigy who carries the weight of 110 million dreams on shoulders barely wide enough to bear them. At just 20 years old, Alexandra Maniego Eala'S stands as a monument to ambition, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. To the casual observer scrolling through Instagram or catching highlights on sports networks, she appears to have it all. The prestigious Rafa Nadal Academy training, historic Grand Slam junior titles glittering on her resume, sponsorship deals that make her face ubiquitous across Manila's towering billboards, and a smile that could light up the darkest corner of any tennis stadium. But beneath the polished veneer of success, beneath the carefully curated social media posts and the triumphant fist pumps, there exists a darkness that few have truly understood. A silence so profound it screams. A pain so deep it has finally broken through the surface, spilling out in the most unexpected and heart-wrenching way imaginable. Just days ago, the world witnessed something remarkable and terrifying, a mother's heart shattering in full view of the public eye. Riza Maniego Eala, the formidable woman who has been the architect, engineer, and foundation of her daughter's meteoric rise, could no longer maintain the stoic facade. The Iron Lady crumbled, with tears streaming down her face, voice trembling with an emotion that transcended mere pride or disappointment. She uttered words that have sent shockwaves through the tennis community and beyond. "My daughter has brought honor to my family and to the entire Philippines," she choked out, each syllable weighted with years of unspoken anguish and fierce maternal love. But why was she crying? What painful truth has been lurking in the shadows of Alex's seemingly charmed existence? And why has the tennis world, with all its supposed sophistication and grace, been so devastatingly cruel to a young woman who simply wants to play the sport she loves? From the lonely corridors of Spanish tennis academies to the crushing heartbreak on the grand stage of Melbourne Park, and now to the terrifying pressure of a historic homecoming in Manila, this is the story that has never been fully told. This is the reality behind the rankings, the truth behind the trophies, the humanity behind the headlines. Welcome to Champions Tennisitics, where we don't just cover the matches, but dive deep into the souls of the champions who play them. If you're ready for the raw, unfiltered truth about what it really costs to chase greatness in professional tennis, you're in exactly the right place. Because what you're about to discover will change the way you see Alex Eala forever. The facade is crumbling. The secrets are emerging, and the truth, as they say, is about to set everyone free, whether they're ready for it or not. Let's be brutally honest for a moment and strip away all the romanticism that surrounds professional tennis. We consume the highlight reels with ravenous enthusiasm. We double-tap the carefully filtered Instagram posts showing training sessions bathed in golden Mediterranean sunlight. We watch the world rankings climb and celebrate each numerical milestone as if it were achieved without cost. We see Alex Eala'S name rising through the WTA rankings, recently cracking the top 50 in a historic achievement for Filipino tennis, and we applaud as if this success materialized from thin air, as if greatness were something you could simply order online and have delivered to your doorstep. But do we ever stop to calculate the actual price? Do we ever pause our celebrations long enough to consider what was sacrificed on the altar of achievement? Picture this. You're 12 years old. 12. Most children at that age are navigating the already turbulent waters of middle school, worrying about whether they'll make the basketball team or get invited to the cool kid's birthday party. They're discovering music, forming friendships that feel like they'll last forever, creating memories in the safety and warmth of home and family. Alex Eala at 12 was doing something entirely different. She was packing her entire life into suitcases. She was saying goodbye to everything familiar, everything comfortable, everything that makes childhood bearable. She was boarding a plane bound for Manacor, Spain, flying thousands of miles away from her parents, her siblings, her language, her culture, her entire support system. Destination, the Rafa Nadal Academy. On paper, it sounds like a fairy tale. Training alongside and under the guidance of the greatest clay court player in tennis history? living in a Mediterranean paradise dedicated to the pursuit of tennis excellence, being one of the chosen few granted access to world-class coaching, facilities, and training methodologies. But fairy tales conveniently omit the parts that don't fit the narrative. They gloss over the nights spent sobbing into pillows in dormitory rooms thousands of miles from the only people who could provide real comfort. They don't mention the crushing loneliness that comes from being surrounded by people, yet feeling utterly alone because nobody speaks your language, understands your culture, or knows what it's like to carry the hopes of an entire nation on shoulders that haven't even finished growing. Sources close to the Eala'S family, speaking on condition of anonymity over the years, have painted a picture that contrasts sharply with the glossy academy brochures and promotional videos. They speak of a young girl grappling with isolation so profound it became almost physical. They describe the language barrier not just as an inconvenience, but as a prison, trapping thoughts and emotions inside because the words to express them in Spanish or English weren't readily available. They recount the homesickness that hit in waves, sometimes triggered by something as simple as a smell or a song that reminded her of home. While her former classmates back in Manila were experiencing their first crushes, going to school dances, and enjoying the normal rhythms of adolescence, Alex was grinding on red clay courts until her hands developed calluses on top of calluses. She was running sprints until her legs felt like they might give out. She was analyzing match footage late into the night, studying opponents, identifying weaknesses, constantly strategizing, perpetually improving. There was no room for normalcy, no space for the ordinary experiences that help young people develop into well-rounded adults. And through it all, there was the burden. The inescapable, suffocating burden of being labeled the next big thing before she'd even figured out who she was as a person, let alone as a player. Every practice session carried the weight of national expectation. Every tournament became a referendum on whether she deserved the investment, the faith, the hope that had been placed in her. Her mother, Eala'S, understands pressure in ways most people never will. A former competitive swimmer herself, she knows what it means to push your body beyond its limits in pursuit of excellence. As a chief financial officer in her professional life, she navigates high-stakes decisions where millions of dollars hang in the balance. She is, by all accounts, a woman of steel, someone who doesn't crack under pressure. But watching your 12-year-old daughter shoulder the weight of a nation's tennis dreams while living alone on another continent, that's a pressure that transcends anything the corporate world or competitive sports can prepare you for. That doesn't just test you, it breaks you in ways that never fully heal. When Riza broke down recently, her tears streaming freely as she recounted the silent struggles her daughter has endured, she wasn't mourning lost matches or disappointed rankings. She was mourning a childhood that was sacrificed, piece by piece, year by year, in service of a dream that demands everything and promises nothing. The world has been far too cruel to a 20-year-old girl, the headlines proclaimed in the aftermath of her emotional revelation. And for once, the sensationalism matched the reality. Because the cruelty isn't always obvious. It doesn't always come in the form of hateful comments or harsh criticism, though there's plenty of that too. Sometimes the cruelty is simply in the expectation that a young person should be able to handle all of this with grace, that they should smile through the pain, that they should be grateful for the opportunity to suffer in pursuit of greatness. We witnessed the most recent and visible manifestation of this cruelty just last week, played out on one of tennis's grandest stages. Melbourne, Australia, January 2026. The Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the new season, where dreams are made and shattered under the scorching summer sun of the Southern Hemisphere. The anticipation surrounding Eala'S participation had reached fever pitch. Fresh off a 2025 season that had shocked the tennis world, including an absolutely stunning victory over world number 2 Iga Swiatek in Miami that nobody saw coming, Eala'S arrived in Melbourne with momentum, confidence, and an army of supporters ready to will her to victory. That win over Swiatek wasn't just an upset, it was a statement, a declaration that Eala'S belonged among the elite, that she could compete with and defeat the very best players on the planet. The scene outside Court 6 on the day of her first-round match was unlike anything typically seen for a first-round match at a major. It resembled a rock concert more than a tennis match. Thousands of Filipino expatriates and tennis fans, many having camped out for hours to secure their spots, created a sea of red, white, blue, and yellow as Philippine flags waved in rhythmic unison. The chants of Alex. Alex created a wall of sound that could be heard courts away. It was electric. It was intoxicating. It was supposed to be the launch pad for a deep run into the tournament. Eala walked onto that court looking every bit the champion she'd proven herself to be. Against American player Alicia Parks, she came out firing on all cylinders. Her forehand was painting lines. Her movement was crisp. Her shot selection was aggressive yet intelligent. The first set was absolute magic, a 6-0 demolition that had the crowd roaring and commentators already speculating about potential second-round matchups. But then something shifted. The demons that live in every athlete's mind, the ones that whisper doubts and magnify fears, began to creep in. The pressure that had been building, not just for this match but for months and years, started to manifest in tightening shoulders and tentative shot-making. Parks, to her credit, recognized the shift and seized the opportunity. The second set flipped entirely, with Parks taking it 6-3. The momentum had swung, and with it, the weight of expectation grew heavier. The third set became a battle not just between two tennis players, but between Alex and herself. The noise of the crowd, which had been a source of energy and support, transformed into something suffocating. Every point felt like it carried the weight of the entire nation. Every error felt like a personal failure not just to herself, but to everyone watching, everyone who had believed in her, everyone who had invested their hopes and dreams in her success. Parks completed the comeback with a 6-2 third set, and just like that, it was over. The dream died on court 6 in Melbourne. Eala had crumbled under the pressure, and the tennis world watched it happen in real time. The aftermath was swift and merciless. Social media, that great democratizer of opinion and incubator of cruelty, exploded with hot takes and harsh judgments. Choke artist, they called her. Overrated, they declared. She can't handle the big stage when it matters. They concluded with the confidence of people who have never stood on a tennis court with thousands watching and millions more judging every move. For a 20-year-old sitting in a locker room somewhere in the bowels of Melbourne Park, sweat drying on her skin, heart still racing from the physical and emotional exertion, muscles aching from the effort, reading those comments on her phone because of course she read them, because she's human and humans can't help but look at the car crash. It must have felt like being stabbed repeatedly. Each comment, each criticism, each declaration of her inadequacy was another dagger finding its mark. Her mother saw that pain etched on her daughter's face. She felt it radiating through every phone call and video chat. And when she spoke publicly about the tear-filled journey that has characterized Alex's career, she was doing what mothers do, defending her child from a world that demands perfection while offering zero tolerance for the very human reality of struggle, doubt, and failure. But to truly understand why that Melbourne loss cut so deep and why Eala'S emotional breakdown resonated so powerfully, we need to excavate the layers of painful past that she alluded to in her tearful revelation. Because this story goes much deeper than a single disappointing loss at a Grand Slam. The pain isn't just emotional or psychological. It's devastatingly physical too. The year 2025, despite its triumphs and breakthrough moments, was also a year of bodily betrayal and constant physical anguish. Remember the shoulder injury that surfaced at what seemed like the worst possible time? Just as Alex was finding her rhythm on the professional tour, just as she was starting to believe she could compete consistently at the highest level, her body said no. The nagging pain that started as a minor annoyance escalated into something that forced her to the sidelines, to seek medical opinions, to contemplate the terrifying possibility that her career might be cut short before it ever truly flourished. Tennis is a brutally unforgiving sport when it comes to injuries. Unlike team sports where you can be substituted or where teammates can compensate for your limitations, tennis is utterly individual. One significant injury, one torn ligament, one damaged joint, and careers that seem destined for greatness can evaporate overnight. The history of tennis is littered with the names of prodigies who never fulfilled their potential because their bodies couldn't withstand the relentless grind. Alex has played through levels of pain that would send most recreational players straight to the emergency room. She has wrapped joints in so much tape and elastic bandaging that she sometimes looked more like a mummy than an athlete. She has swallowed anti-inflammatory medications and painkillers, balanced against the knowledge that relying too heavily on them creates other problems down the line. She has walked onto courts with injuries that would normally require rest and rehabilitation, painted on a smile, and competed as if everything were fine because showing weakness, showing vulnerability, admitting that she's hurt is simply not an option when representing a nation of 110 million people who are watching, hoping, praying for victory. And then there's the honor that her mother mentioned, that beautiful word that carries such tremendous weight in Filipino culture. My daughter has brought honor to my family and to the entire Philippines. Those words sound poetic. They sound like the ultimate compliment, the highest praise a parent can bestow. But honor, particularly in the context of representing an entire nation, is not a lightweight garment you can easily shrug off when it becomes uncomfortable. It's more like a heavy coat made of the densest material imaginable, worn in tropical heat and humidity that makes breathing difficult and every movement an effort. Every single time Eala'S steps onto a tennis court anywhere in the world, she isn't just Eala'S. She isn't just a talented young woman trying to win a tennis match. She becomes the embodiment of the Philippines itself. When she wins, the entire country celebrates as if it were a national holiday. Streets erupt in celebration. Social media explodes with pride and joy. News broadcasts lead with her victory. She becomes, for that moment, the personification of everything positive about Filipino talent, determination, and potential on the world stage. But the inverse is equally true and infinitely more painful. When she loses, the nation mourns. The criticism flows. The questioning begins. The second-guessing about training methods, coaching decisions, tournament schedules, everything becomes fair game for analysis and judgment. Can anyone truly imagine that level of pressure at 15 years old? At 18? At 20? The psychological burden of knowing that your performance doesn't just affect you, but ripples out to impact the emotional state of millions of people? That's not just pressure. That's a form of emotional suffocation that most people couldn't withstand for even a day, let alone years on end. She understands that she isn't just playing matches this week at the Philippine Women's Open. She is building a legacy, brick by brick, whether she's ready to fully embrace that concept or not. Every young Filipino player who picks up a racket because they saw Eala'S compete, every parent who decides to invest in their child's tennis development because Eala'S proved it's possible, every tournament director who considers bringing events to the Philippines because they've seen the passion and support that exists there, all of that is part of the legacy being constructed in real time. So here we stand at the precipice of something potentially extraordinary. The stage has been meticulously set. All the elements are in place for a week that could define not just Eala'S career, but the trajectory of Philippine tennis for the next generation. The Philippine Women's Open has officially begun. The qualifying rounds have concluded, separating the hopefuls from those who will compete in the main draw. The tournament proper starts Monday, and with it, the weight of an entire nation's expectations descends once again onto the shoulders of a 20-year-old woman who has already carried more than any single person should have to bear. Eala'S versus Elena Kariva. On paper, it's just another first-round match at a WTA 125 event. In reality, it's so much more than that. This is a battle for redemption after the Melbourne heartbreak. This is a battle to transform her mother's tears from expressions of pain into expressions of joy. This is a battle to prove to herself, to her critics, to her nation, and to the cruel world that has judged her so harshly that she possesses the mental fortitude and emotional resilience to rise from the ashes of defeat. Can she do it? Can she quiet the demons that whispered doubt during that third set in Melbourne? Can she channel the overwhelming love and support of the home crowd into fuel for her performance rather than allowing it to become another source of pressure? Can she play free and aggressive tennis while carrying the weight of national expectation? These are the questions that will be answered over the coming days, played out on the courts of the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center in front of a crowd that will hang on every point, every game, every set, as if their own lives depended on the outcome. The world is watching with the kind of attention usually reserved for Grand Slam finals. The Philippines is holding its collective breath, afraid to hope too much, but unable to stop themselves from believing. And somewhere in the stands, probably in a premium seat close to the court where she can see every expression that crosses her daughter's face. Eala will be watching, her heart lodged somewhere in her throat, hands clenched together in prayer or anxiety or some combination of both, hoping with every fiber of her being that this time, after all the tears and sacrifice and pain, the story has a happy ending. This is the drama that makes us fall in love with tennis over and over again. This is why we invest our emotions in players we'll never meet and matches that don't directly affect our lives. This is the raw, unscripted human story that transcends sport and becomes something universal. A story about perseverance, about family, about carrying on when everything inside you is screaming to quit, about finding the strength to stand up one more time after being knocked down. Eala is wounded. She is battle-scarred. She carries visible and invisible injuries that would have ended lesser careers before they truly began. But she is home. She is surrounded by people who love her unconditionally, not for what she achieves, but for who she is. And a wounded tiger fighting on its home turf, defending its territory, drawing strength from familiar ground, that is perhaps the most dangerous and unpredictable creature in all of nature. We are predicting fireworks in Manila this week. We are predicting emotional matches that will have fans crying in the stands. We are predicting moments of brilliance mixed with moments of vulnerability. We are predicting a week that will be discussed and analyzed and remembered for years to come, regardless of the eventual outcome. Because this is more than tennis. This is life, played out in sets and games and points. This is human drama at its finest and most raw. This is everything we love about sports condensed into one tournament, one player, one incredible story. So what do you think, champions? Is the pressure on Eala too much for a 20-year-old to handle? Or will the love of her home crowd propel her to the title in Manila? And what about her mother's emotional revelation? Does knowing the painful past and the silent struggles make you root for Eala'S even more? Does it change how you'll watch her matches going forward? I genuinely want to hear from you because this community thrives on discussion and debate. Drop a comment below right now and tell me. Will Eala win the Philippine Women's Open? Yes or no? Give me your honest prediction and tell me why you believe what you believe. Let's get a real conversation going in the comments section. Let's debate the possibilities and share our hopes and fears for what this week might bring. If you found value in this deep dive into the emotional and psychological roller coaster that is Eala'S professional tennis career, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel grow and allows us to continue producing this kind of in-depth content that goes beyond surface-level analysis. And if you haven't already subscribed to Champions Tennisistics, what are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss a single update. We're going to be tracking every match Eala'S plays this week, every tear shed, every triumph celebrated. You don't want to miss the video when she potentially lifts that trophy in Manila, or the analysis if things don't go according to plan. This is Champions Tennisistics, where the game never truly ends and the human stories behind the scores are always the most compelling part. I'll see you in the next video with updates, analysis, and continued coverage of Eala'S journey through the Philippine Women's Open. Until then, keep believing in the power of perseverance, keep supporting the athletes who give us these incredible stories, and never forget that behind every statistic and ranking and result is a human being with hopes, dreams, fears, and the courage to chase greatness despite the cost. Peace, champions. Let's make history together.
Okay, sige. Yes, sige. Okay, yun.
Kamusta mga kapong Pinoy? Surprise! Excited na akong imbitahin kayong lahat na manood sa mga laban ko sa Mubadala Abu